NBA alive before lock. It is your old Olay pal Emac because it is National Margarita Day. Eddie, I had a margarita with dinner. It was good.
Sounds like you had a couple.
I'm feeling a little flush right now because it was basically tequila, triple sec, and squeezed lime juice on the rocks. So all of a sudden, is this what a hot flash feels like? Because it certainly seems like I'm in the midst of one. But I have my trusty Diet Pepsi to
To
save the
cool you
day here.
down. Of all the hosts on our channel who have consumed something giving them a reason to be flushed and sweaty this week, I think you're a distant number three, but I'm
Oh,
glad
that's
you
right.
are.
I would not work out well for the one chip challenge. There would be crying involved, lots of swearing. I'm sure it would not be a pretty sight. So
Yeah, I kind of want to try it, but we gotta get there at some point. I'm an old man. It'd probably be like a week in the hospital with an ulcer or something, but I enjoy testing myself.
yeah, I choose not to. Everybody says, "Oh, Emacs a lightweight, Emacs." It was like 2 shots of tequila. Yeah, that's really not that much, is it? So, in any event, it was fun. It was. We had a nice little salad, some chicken that was cooked in the crock pot with salsa and other accoutrements. It was a good dinner. It's a good
You
dinner.
have an excellent joie de vivre, my good friend.
Yeah, but you know what we've got? We've got an NBA slate. How have you been? You got your little All-Star break here yourself. It's been
Extended.
yeah, it's like
Extended.
six days for you now.
Yeah, they're we've got a deep bench here at Awesome. We've got a deep set of starters. I'm trying to say in the starting five, not get Wally pipped by all these damn kids. They've been good. Special shout out to Adam Scher, Ship My Money DFS, who's up I don't think some $200,000 in hockey and basketball over the last couple days. Always enjoyed his work, especially really smart guy and really knows his DFS aside from basketball. And then I've heard him say he doesn't know basketball. I don't think that's the case at all, but does really so much of the legwork and really pays attention to coaches' comments and rotations, especially. So, not surprised to see him get well. So that was a long time coming. I heard, a downswing for a few months. Good to see the cream rise to the top, and not terribly surprising. So, special shout out to him this evening.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we're relatively transparent here, which is pretty good. You know, I like to say I'm last of the big spenders. Yeah, I muck around in the low dollar stuff, but I play every day, multiple sports, and most of the slates, so it all adds up quickly. Adam, you see his ups and downs, and then of course the boss man. Kind of hard to miss him. Speaking of the boss man, SuperDraft. It's the Awesomeo place to be. Last night, Tom, JK took down first and second for a cool $7,000 on SuperDraft. The night before that, it was Slow Eddie. 1-800 Eddie took it down for a cool $10,000. So they, of course, are our sponsor of the majority of our basketball shows. So we will be going afterwards after the main lock tonight to talk about
Nice.
them. They are doing a 7:30 lock, so they have requested that we keep on and break the things down for that. So we
Very good,
definitely
very good.
will.
And it's important to look at again for I think keeping a good mental state and understanding of what's going on is important. You look at someone who is at the very top of this industry, and Adam, who can struggle literally for a few months because especially if you play largely GPPs, which are so top heavy, a bounce and a rebound one way or the other is the difference between winning $100,000 and $1,000. Literally. I played high volume, obviously, for a significant number of years, and many other people do. And any of them would tell you that you literally have a couple bounces of the ball make the difference between being up a couple hundred grand or down over the course of a year. So it is not consistent by any means. You will come out ahead if you have a good process, if you know what you're talking about, if you engage in excellent content like this. But people will be like, God, I'm really on a losing streak. It happens to literally everyone. Everyone didn't used to, back in the days of like 2013, 14, 15. It was so easy that if you were good, you could win just about every day. Those were the days. Now with the rake where it is, and more importantly, a better informed populace, you're going to have some pretty significant swings if you're living that GPP life. So do not be dissuaded, my friends. Your day will come.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So let's kind of quickly just give your thoughts, because the landscape of this entire slate changed from when Adam and I did this strategy show. We now know that in addition to Kristaps Porzingis, who I suspected would probably not play this one, Luka Doncic is out and Willie Cauley-Stein away from the team for personal reasons. Atlanta on the other side is going to be without the DeAndres. That would be Bembry and Hunter. They are out with let's see, personal for Hunter. It looks like I can't remember if it's
Hunter,
groin or whatever it was.
Bembry has core or something like that.
Adductor or something fun like that for Bembry. Skal Labissiere still not available at this point post trade. So those are big ones. Chicago missing pretty much everybody that wears the Chicago Bulls jersey. And
you can look at their game they played yesterday, and it's the same 9 guys, except now it's 8 guys because Luke Cornett is out, who started and played a mere 15 minutes. So pretty similar rotation. Give those 15 minutes, 13 to Gafford and 2 to Felicio or something, and they'll be just fine.
All right. But yeah, so no Wendell Carter Jr., no Otto Porter, et cetera, et cetera.
No Hutchinson, no Chris Dunn, no Denzel Valentine, no Laurie Markkinen, no Luke Cornett. The whole team is
literal cast of thousands. Then you've got Jimmy Butler out tonight. This was personal day, so that one kind of caught us off guard, but that clearly elevates Goran Dragic, who is because they are Miami's also without Tyler Hero still, so they have some guard minutes that are going to be available, or wing player minutes that'll kind of trickle down. Bam Adebayo becomes an intriguing option. There was one other. Eric Gordon's the one we're not aware of yet. He is listed as questionable still. The last I saw, he's missed what, 2 games? I've lost track with the All-Star break.
Yeah, he's the break messes.
He's missed 3
for me, but yeah, that's. I'm trying to think if he missed any. Kevin Love will not play.
Kevin Love, yes,
that's pretty important. Alfonso McKinney also is still out with an injury, which is relevant because he would have played a dozen minutes. Still not super excited about anyone on Cleveland, but him being out, moves a couple minutes around. If you want a Nance Osman, those guys are certainly
no revenge for Kyle Korver.
That's true. Kyle Korver, taking it easy. Basically, the only one on that team who isn't participating. Shout out for the Bucks, by the way. Bucks and Charlotte. I bet if you look this year to see which teams have lost the fewest minutes due to injuries, that might be them. They've been like almost entirely healthy. I guess actually Memphis might be a little better. They've only lost a few minutes too. But the Bucks, when you're arguably already the best team in the league, when nobody ever gets hurt, really, helps you develop a really nice rhythm as a team.
All right, so player pool's kind of expanded because we've lost some of the guys where some of the talent was concentrated and where some of the early popularity ownership was going. So Brooklyn and Charlotte, now with our new lens through today, what do you like in this one? Adam had said he really liked, well, not really liked. There are 3 players he likes from this game. It would be Dinwiddie, LeVert, and then the price tag on Terry Rozier has come down quite a bit. But in light of missing a few other players, what do you want to hit on for that game? And then, of course, we'll spend a lot of time on Dallas, Atlanta, Phoenix.
I'm going to take a look at ownership, but if it looks anything like what I expect, my favorite player from this game would be none of those 3.
Perhaps a Malik Monk coming
in? Keep going. See how many you can go. None of those 4.
Zeller?
None of those 5.
Oh, boy. I don't think we have a starting lineup yet. Is it DeAndre Jordan?
None of those 6. You're going to get there.
Graham?
None of those 7. Going to get there, though.
I'm giving up. That's 7.
Jared Allen.
Okay.
Let's
start there.
This is one of my only concern is obviously the minutes and the role. And this is an early game, and I suspect you will get confirmation that he's starting. And I will love him incredibly at $4,300 on DraftKings and $5,100 on FanDuel. Now, I can't recommend taking an overwhelming position because there are huge amounts of cheap value tonight at the bigs and huge amounts of value everywhere. So running all in 50% on one of them isn't going to make a lot of sense. But this matchup is as good as it gets for him. It would not shock me if this was his best matchup of the year, and it's one of those times when the video and common sense and statistical intuition all make sense, and this is a supreme spot for him. So I'll start at the most relevant thing is, DeAndre Jordan started the second half of the last game, and the minutes distribution has tilted very significantly toward Jordan over the last 4, 5, 6 games. This is why there's quite a bit of risk involved here. I think Jared Allen will still continue to start. I do not think they will upset the entire apple cart and throw DeAndre Jordan starting. If they do, I would probably have very little interest in Jared Allen, because if Jared Allen starts, I still have him at like 24, 25 minutes, and that's what I expect. If DeAndre Jordan starts, I would actually have him for a couple more, I think, and that starts to make it certainly risky, though not out of play at like $4,300. The matchups recently that they've been in. Okay, so they played Philadelphia. Philadelphia has always been a tough matchup for Jared Allen and anyone else who plays center. And it was Embiid with an extra load of steam behind him because there was no Ben Simmons just slamming in there over and over again. And while it's not a good matchup for DeAndre Jordan, he'll do better than Jared Allen. And in my opinion, that's what happened there. Full stop. The game before that was, I believe, Toronto, which was a difficult matchup, and you had more of the minutes land on Jordan, who is marginally better defensively in matchups like that one. The game before that, and this is the one that originally gave me some pause, was, I believe, the Pacers game. And in that game, he only played, I want to say, 20, 21 minutes, and DeAndre Jordan played like the final 14 minutes, and that's because in a very good matchup, DeAndre Jordan was going the hell off. I believe he had 8 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks in the fourth quarter of that game. So they let him play out the string. The game before that, I think, was Toronto again. And then if you start to look back a few games before that, he was getting the normal majority of the minutes that he had been getting. And I think it is more likely than not, with how Kenny Atkinson runs this team and how they've looked to develop him, that he starts tonight, which again is critical. And if he starts tonight, I think he gets the chance to, establish himself and get his full run. Maybe he doesn't get 28 minutes, maybe gets 24 minutes. I'm going to really like him at 24 minutes. If you go back and look at, this is the fourth time these two teams have played this year, and Jared Allen has been exceptional in the first three, and I was a huge fan of him at $6,000 in most of those. He had 35, 40, and 45 fantasy points in 23, 25, 25 minutes. He's got somewhere around, I would think, 1.6, 1.7 fantasy points per minute in this matchup this year. That's a little higher than I would expect. Kyrie Irving played none of those games. Karis LeVert played none of those games. So we'll generally call that a bit of a wash. I don't know, how much that affects, but it's a really strong spot. He's been really good against Cody Zeller going back into previous years, and that is not a big price tag to pay off. I'll download a couple things and take a look at some advanced numbers past that, but that's Charlotte DraftKings points per, I don't know, minute this year. Most on the team. Jared Allen, 1.62. Second, DeAndre Jordan, 1.39. Third, Spencer Dinwiddie, who played all 3 games with no LeVert and no Kyrie, 1.17, which is just fine. Certainly think that's a fine place you can go in a tournament. Nobody else exceeds 1 on this. I'm not super fan of Taurean Prince, who people have asked me about a lot today. Not the most ideal spot for him. Obviously, he can spike an upside at a reasonably low price, but I'm not. He's one of those guys where it seems like sort of the odd place to take the chance. But DeAndre Jordan has 95 DraftKings points and 68 minutes played against the Hornets this year, and Jared Allen has 123 DraftKings points in 76 minutes. I don't like generally game log watching, but everything sort of adds up. I can't see any reason that it wouldn't be a very interesting risk for me at $4,300 and expected to be the seventh highest owned bargain big of the evening, where there are all sorts of very good ones all around the association. So when I looked some 6 hours ago, the last time I took a look at ownership, we had him at 5, 6, 7%. I can't think of any reason that would have markedly changed. I honestly think we're probably currently underselling the Maxi Kleber ownership, which will take even more away from him. So, if he's going to be 5, 10%, I myself would get closer to 20. I think, and again, that's in, he's had He's had an average of, that would be, if I'm mathing that right, more than 40 fantasy points average a game against them this year, and an average of 25.3 minutes. So I wouldn't project him to keep up 1.6. In a matchup this good with those guys out, I'd probably have him somewhere around 1.35, maybe up to 1.4, based on all the history. He's somewhere around 1.1 on the year, I think. So I'm still giving him a significant boost there. But even if you give him those numbers, you're looking at a projection of north of 30 for me, 4,300 with definitely an upside behind that. Much like he lost time in difficult matchups, I think he gains time back here, and I don't think they give him 30 whatever minutes like they did Jordan. Though I don't think that's crazy that Jordan, who is not a spring chicken, who played a ton of minutes, admittedly it's not a back-to-back here, that was Thursday, maybe they give him 30 minutes and DeAndre Jordan gets 18. Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but I don't need that for this to work out extremely well. So versus ownership, Jared Allen, one of my favorite plays on the slate. And in a GPP, FanDuel, I would probably rather get to LeVert, certainly by any raw point per dollar projection. His price there is at 6,200. That's very appealing for me. And Jordan is 5,100 there, though at power forward, when there are so many great cheap centers today, opens up more room to do that. But yeah, I like LeVert more on FanDuel, certainly going there on DK. I like Spencer Dinwiddie. Past that, Rozier at $5,300 does appeal more to me. Now we've seen ceiling games out of both the guards on Charlotte previously this year, in what's obviously a pretty great matchup. We had some 40 fantasy point game out of Graham. Their 40 real point game, I think. I'm all confused. I didn't rewatch them all today, but it's certainly a spot where either of them can get there. I do think Rozier is the better point per dollar play. I would even probably rather go with Monk at around $5,000. He's been getting a little bit more time. I'd rather spend up a little bit and play Malik Monk against Brooklyn than go with Kobe White for, say, $400 less, who's getting, I expect, more ownership and a little more publicity. But pretty juicy spot. I like all the guys Adam likes, but in a tournament, the first guy I'm going to go to is Jared Allen for the reasons I stated. Now, if you disagree with those reasons, if you think he continues to see 20 minutes, which it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people projected him for, because that's what he's been seeing for about 4 games, then that would make a difference for me. And there's lots of other really good cheap centers, obviously starting with the Mavericks and then working around the league. But I do not think that is representative. I think they begin to push that back into a balance. I think the fact that DeAndre Jordan played 37 minutes 2 days ago is a negative, not a positive for him.
These are good ones. And Chad, I know you guys are getting riled up, but these are the plays that we're really going to have to look at tonight, and it's where we're going to find some of the differentiation.
Why are they getting riled up? What am I doing?
Oh no, they want to talk Dallas. Dallas.
Let's talk Dallas. I totally agree. Dallas needs to be talked about, and half the good plays on this later.
I was going to ask if you want to do Chicago first, just in the off chance we can get a Dallas starting lineup, maybe buy us a little bit of time, or do you have a good feel?
Starting lineup doesn't matter to me.
Okay, then let's go to Dallas.
Doesn't matter that much. There is some small chance you get Boban starting at center.
All right, so here's $100 super chat, Eddie. So we're going to give Neil Orfeld his question. Are there any rules that you would have regarding the Mavs players in the same lineup? Would you limit, like, no Barea and Brunson, no Kleber and Boban,
I had this question before, and I thought about it for a while, and my answer is no. They're just too cheap. So I'll just start from the very beginning. This is the third game this year that Kristaps and Doncic have both sat out. And one of them was the only other game these cross-conference teams played against Atlanta. So we have a pretty good-looking game to look at here. In that game, the field woefully erred by massively under-owning a Dallas team, where everyone should have been massively owned. And I spent half the show talking about it and said that my favorite of the players on Dallas that day was Tim Hardaway Jr. You were on with me because it was a Saturday. I think it was 3 weeks ago today.
They had played in Houston the night before Dallas had.
It was 3 weeks ago today. I'm almost certain. As a matter of fact, I think the other game that they both missed was a week after that. I think it was the 1st of February and the 8th of February, if memory serves. But that was against Charlotte. We can talk about that in a second to look at some more downside options out of this Dallas team, because they were not good in that game. Like, in that game, with no Doncic, no Porzingis, I think literally Seth Curry was good, which is pretty difficult to do. But so in the first game in question, it went bad. I said on the show, the only way this can go bad is if somehow in that game was a 3-point line. Tonight's game is a 1-point line. The only way this can really go bad is if everybody's minutes get limited and somehow there ends up being a blowout in what's projected to be a very close game. There was a significant blowout. I think the Mavs, without those two guys, beat them by, I want to say it was 23, but it was somewhere into the mid-20s. And you only had 3 guys who were exceptional and in every tournament winning lineup and 2 guys who were really good or something like that. I'll take a look at it in a second. It is a preposterously good spot, and they're still all going under-owned. My average, I would have to sit there and decide whether or not I'd say 2 or 3 is the most likely number of Mavericks in a tournament winning lineup tonight. I'd be pretty shocked if it's less than 2. It's really, especially on FanDuel, by the way, the prices are egregious. But even on DraftKings, the pricing is way too cheap. So all right, hold on. We'll look at some. I think I have that one pulled from before. So yeah, February 1st. That was this game here. So in that game, you had Maxi Kleber started, played 30 minutes, had it looks like about 38 fantasy points. It was about $4,000 that day too. That was critical. Dorian Finney-Smith had 40 fantasy points. Jalen Brunson had 40 fantasy points. Willie Cauley-Stein had, at the time, minimum price like 28 fantasy points. And you had some guys off the bench be not terrible. Delon Wright had 9, 7, 5, and 1. So that's 30 fantasy points. That wasn't going to kill anyone. Justin Jackson had north of 20.
Brea DNP'd that one, didn't he?
Seth Curry had 15, 6, and 2, which was about 25. Who DNP'd that one?
Brea?
Yes, and I hated him. He was the chalk because he had played the night before, and I said on the show, and he was like 30% owned. I think there is a greater than 50% chance JJ Barea does not play. They don't play JJ Barea when they're winning, basically at all. That's a great stat. I'd love someone to look up. Look at the ratio of time that a player has been on the court when winning versus when losing, and the most when losing might be JJ Barea. They literally break glass and free JJ Barea when they need a spark. And he's kind of old and certainly has plenty of injuries, so they just don't play him when they don't have to. Now, I'm perfectly fine getting to some JJ Barea tonight, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, JJ Barea was super chalk, and I crapped all over him. Tim Hardaway was dreadful. Had like 12 fantasy points. I don't want to talk about it. So between the blowout, which was very unlikely, and Hardaway being crap, it still only worked out to be really good, and we won like $50,000 that night. But I thought we were going to win $1 million because everyone was incredibly, incredibly under-owned, and you only had Brunson exceptional, Finney-Smith exceptional, Kleber exceptional. You got like 10 to 1 points per dollar out of Willie Cauley-Stein. So we'll just call him very good. Delon Wright, fine. Justin Jackson, fine. Seth Curry, fine, or something like that. So you had 7 players you didn't mind having, 4 you wanted, 3 you really wanted. And I think that's a worse than average showing. Now you have Willie Cauley-Stein not playing as well. So again, in each of these 2 games, one against the Hornets and this game against the Hawks, they started Willie Cauley-Stein at center. They started Maxi Kleber at power forward. He then played some backup center. I don't think it's impossible they start Boban Marjanovic tonight. Now, I don't think they do. And there is still a chance he doesn't play, but this is the first game, and I love Boban, and I've been in the unenviable spot of talking down Boban about 6 times since the trade deadline happened, because people are like, is it Boban? I'm like, they can't, they won't. There's been all these times they could have and they didn't. It's really hard to not try to get some out there now. Now, the problem is he's going to get cooked. So my guess is you get 14 to 16 minutes out of Boban tonight, in which case I think he's a pretty exciting GPP play. I would say I would currently give 2 to 1 he plays, meaning I think there's a full 30-40% chance he does not step on the court. There are many ways they can roll this lineup with lots of time. Obviously, Kleber at the 5, Dorian Finney-Smith can play the 4, and they can just run super small against an Atlanta team that also likes to run pretty small, where they're going to spend plenty of time with, Collins at the center probably. Maybe not. And Dedmon getting the start, which I expected, and I ranked Dedmon pretty well. It's a fine matchup for him. Makes it more likely you catch Boban start or Boban time, but I imagine they try to put Boban on the court every minute Trae Young is not on the court. If Trae Young's on the court, it'll be fun. I'll just put it that way. Starting Boban would be a relevant statistical increase for Trae Young. Like I would raise his projection by 1.5 points or something. Like it would be a really relevant, which is massive for one starter changing on the other team. But that being said, everyone on this team is not owned well enough. In those, Dorian Finney-Smith, who by the way is $4,000 on FanDuel. Tim Hardaway is probably appropriately priced. I've had several people be like, I'm not going back there again. Well, that's a dumb idea. He's had, I think, 40 fantasy points twice and 45 fantasy points once in the 3 weeks interceding these 3 games. And if you think he, for some reason, can't do it against the Hawks with 60% of the usage on the team missing, I don't know how you justify that. So, yes, there is 50 fantasy point game upside in Tim Hardaway today. I would make sure you have some. But Kleber, Finney-Smith, Brunson, Hardaway, Wright, certainly all, and Curry as well, presuming he suits up. Don't we still have Curry at questionable?
We do have him at questionable.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned that in our injury rundown at the beginning of the show. If Curry is out as well, you're looking at probable minutes for JJ Barea at this point. They're going to end up really short. Courtney Lee would certainly play then. Don't really want to play Courtney Lee. Courtney Lee, a very real chance of starting today, by the way. They very possibly just start Courtney Lee, push Maxi Kleber down and start like Brunson, Lee, Hardaway, Finney-Smith, Kleber. In fact, that's probably my most likely starting lineup. Could be Seth Curry if he's in. Seth Curry probably gets that spot over Courtney Lee and he just gets moved into the rotation. You could get a Barea start. We've seen that. So I don't really know. And we'll react to that when it comes out, which should be during the show. Again, that's a 7:30 game. But per site, we can talk about specifically ranking these guys. But
now, would you consider skipping the first game till we have this news, like not playing the Charlotte?
Yes. I mean, I like that game just fine. It's a slow game, but I think people are overreacting to that. It's gotten over under whatever, 218, 220, I think. That's only a few points less than a few other games. I think people are overreacting against teams that have significant defensive holes. Charlotte is really bad at center. The Nets, for example, have been pretty decent defensively this year, are awful against point guards and awful against centers. And that is by system. Started talking about Chicago, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Their system and the amount of time they get out and double and guard the line leads them to be very, very good against guards and very shitty against the interior. And you start to see more and more teams abuse them when they do that. When they came back from the break, they played Charlotte? I think Charlotte played Chicago. And in that game, you got the starting forwards both taking more shots than either Graham or Rozier, who took like 7 and 8 shots. Starting forwards took like 11, and you got Miles Bridges took 25 shots in that game, or some absolutely absurd number, because their defense allows that again and again and again. So there is a danger about game log watching and looking at like defense versus position. You should never look at defense versus position, but there are reasons these things happen. The teams have defenses, and especially as the season goes on and they play multiple times, you get beat up in the same way over and over again for good reason. So, and again, I should point out, we were talking about all those superlative fantasy scores. The most minutes played in that game was Maxi Kleber, who played 30 minutes and 12 seconds. Dorian Finney-Smith played 28 and a half. Jalen Brunson played 27. Tim Hardaway played 27. Willie Cauley-Stein, now absent, played 26. Delon Wright got up to 29 off the bench. But, nobody got 30 minutes. So even though some guys were still exceptional at 10% owned, so they're just not owned enough tonight. The only guy on this team who I think is probably currently under-owned is Delon Wright, and I like him a lot. Over-owned is probably Delon Wright, only because the other Mavs should be higher. I like him a lot. If all the other Mavs were appropriately owned, I would look at 20 or 23% or whatever I saw on Delon Wright and be like, that's too little, that should be higher. But he's closest to appropriately owned on the team, so I would probably end up pivoting to other guys.
All right, we've got Jared Allen starting. We also know that the Bulls are starting not the same as it. Bulls are starting Sato, Arcidiacono, Levine Young, and Gafford.
Yeah, that's all as expected. So yeah, I really like Jared Allen now that they're giving him the start again. I would project him for 25 minutes and some 34 fantasy points, and that feels very good for $4,300, and there is a ceiling beyond that.
I'm looking to see if we get an ownership update here.
But the specific question, there was $100 super chat, and I want to get back to the guy's question. Yep. Would I set any rules? No. there are, based on how they run their rotations, there's not really a lot of mutual exclusivity in the way the team. Nobody plays just one position, and nobody's expensive enough where I'm worried about it. Like if Tim Hardaway and Jalen Brunson are $8,500 each, which would not make them out of play in a matchup against the Hawks, missing 60% of the usage on the team. That's how drastically underpriced guys are. Like you look at Tim Hardaway Jr. at 6,100 and go, oh, I don't know. That's too cheap. Now it's less too cheap than everyone else on the damn team on DraftKings. That's still too cheap. He should be priced probably at least into the sevens. But if those guys all cost $8,500, I would have to put in some limits because I don't think enough guys can get there. But the last time this happened, we had 4 guys get 40 plus fantasy points, and they all cost $5,000, $4,000, 3,500. So no, I don't think I would have any groups. I would be significantly exposed to the team, trying to average roughly 3 players in a lineup. 4 wouldn't really bother me. 2 would be about a minimum for me.
All right.
Want to briefly mention
we have 26 minutes, so hit whatever you'd like.
No, go.
Oh no, I was going to say we probably want to talk about the Atlanta side because Collins is in a nice matchup here. Obviously, Trae Young as well.
Yep.
In ranking them against Giannis.
Lesser priorities for me than these guys on the Mavericks. You can't draw a lot from the previous game looking at Trae Young's performance. He was terrible in that game and then was injured, I believe, somewhere in the middle of the third quarter. So you got 20 some odd minutes out of Trae Young, and he had like 25. He was bad in that game before leaving. That means absolutely nothing to me. I think Trae Young is a stellar option. I have him slightly better than I have him well better than Harden and slightly better than Russell Westbrook as far as that sort of pay up guard spot for me. I prefer paying up for Giannis. And again, someone who, I prefer paying up for Giannis in this spot, though. All strong pay up options. I really don't have any significant issue with any of them, but I very much like Trae Young, and I think that is the spend up on this team. Past that, Hunter, and I guess by extension, Bembry being out, although he was largely expurgated from the lineup even before the injury bug struck him, certainly gives us a fair bit of interest in a lot of guys on this Atlanta team. Collins at 8,400, I like quite a bit. There's a ceiling there. Young being in isn't obviously the greatest thing for him. For me, list of how much I'd like to play him, my order would probably go Young, Dedman, Collins, Reddish, I think is the order I would put those guys in. Reddish minutes are really secure here, $4,100, and a spot I very much like him in, especially if they can actually keep this game close. Last time it blew out, so we didn't get everything that we could have here. Then probably Porter at 5,400, who I like quite a bit, and even managed to get there. Where obviously Trae Young coming off a monster game in a much more difficult matchup with Miami, no reason he can't do it again here. His price still a little bit cheap. He's just chucking. In that last game that they did focus on him a fair amount, rewatching that earlier today, which had something to do with him being so poor in the 3 quarters that he played. I don't really care. He's cooked far better defenses than this. I'd like to see Delon Wright on him on ball, who may get the start. That would be sort of a relevant dissuasion for me. But that's the order I would like the Hawks in, and I'll field any more questions that people bring up. But the rankings version 4 are in by this point, so please refer to them.
All right, let's hit the Chicago now. I kind of, one of the questions I had is, what do you do with Jeff Teague? I don't play him. I would rather go. I know they're different prices, but I'd rather go to like Satoransky. I'd rather go to DeLon Wright. I'd rather go to Brunson. Just a bunch of other guys that I know I'd have to find the money elsewhere. But Jeff Teague is not Jeff Teague anymore. He's not a viable fantasy asset with any consistency.
I need more stuff going on here. I did not rank him with all the other value tonight. I would not play Jeff Teague. I would have 0 Jeff Teague in 150 lineups. I rank Garrett
White.
Temple. So like I have him pretty low.
Yeah, Kobe White is someone I think I'd rather just let other people assume the risk. If you're doing mass multi-entry, sure, absolutely have him. If I'm building 5 lineups, he probably doesn't make it.
Yeah, he chucks. And 30 minutes last game gets people very excited and hot and bothered, and that makes a very good bit of sense. It's just it's a popularity question for me. If he's going to end up being greater than 10 or 15% owned, that seems like a bit too high for me. If that number
Yeah, it
has,
looks like he's come down quite a bit. He's in that 10 or 15 range on all the sites now.
okay, that's fine. Like I'm then purely ambivalent on Cody White. Look, he's the minutes being up is great. Obviously, the detrimental minutes feel good. I think 30 minutes is a reasonable projection for him again today. He just doesn't do a butt ton other than score. So you're looking at him going out there and throwing up a massive number. Now, this Phoenix defense has gotten significantly worse. It has to do with somewhat of the injuries and Rubio being not 100%, who's sort of the backcourt anchor for that defense. And earlier in the year, they were really good. They were like a top 8 defense for the first 3 weeks. And I pretty strongly said, I'm sure that will slide. They just don't have the personnel to maintain that. Les Baines more Ayton has a lot to do with that. But this is the only position they're above average at all defensively at guarding at this point is really the wings and the power forward specifically, and that's got something to do with McCall Bridges and a couple other things. But yeah, it's a really nice matchup for Chicago. They should have an 8-man rotation with minutes pretty heavily focused on about 6 of them. I like Daniel Gafford a lot. Presuming Boban isn't starting, I'm a big fan of 3K Daniel Gafford. It has been referred to me a few times today that he only played, I want to say 16 minutes or so in that last game, but he fouled out, which is a very real possibility again today. DeAndre Ayton may eat his breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I have to really like DeAndre Ayton. Still some concerns about that rotation. That price is not cheap, but he is a guy who frequently gets what's blocked. Like he will hit a fantasy point ceiling of 55 or so is where he's gotten to a few times this year, and he tends to do it in really strong matchups. And this is a really strong matchup. The absence of Chris Dunn, some of the changes have affected exactly how efficient this defense has been at guarding various types of plays and in various positions by extension. But for most of this year, they were the best defense in the NBA or close to it against point guards and against shooting guards, and the worst in the league against centers and close to it against power forwards. Like they get beaten to crap down low. And DeAndre Ayton is perfectly happy to fill that role. So I don't mind Ayton at all as a spend up. I like him quite a bit.
How are you feeling like comparing Booker with the discount to Zach to Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, it's very tricky, and I think those 3 guys are very good to compare in that range. I have them all within a hair's breadth. Normally, I would significantly like Levine more due to the matchup. He and Booker spent a fair number, half dozen games on the court against each other, even more than that, actually, going back to some Minnesota games. And it goes one way or the other, and there's sort of a minor rivalry there. If you look at the vaunted Chicago backcourt defense, which I've talked about all year, it has slid over the last couple of weeks, expectedly, with the injuries. It's still massively better than the front court defense, which is still basically the worst in the NBA, but it's slid closer to even. So with that, I'm probably going to take Devin Booker as my favorite of those guys, but it would be very close. I would probably go barely, and again, it's going to change based on the pricing on whatever site you're at, but I would probably go Booker, Mitchell, Levine by not a significant differentiation.
All right. Anything else from the Windy City, either side? Because Cleveland, Miami, Sands, Kevin Love, and Jimmy Butler is next.
Okay, let's do it.
No Tyler Hero. How are you? What is your limit for any Heat players? I don't think there's really any at this point. I'm good with Dragic. I like none. I love Adebayo. I'm concerned about Cleveland. I don't know what they're going to do with Tristan Thompson. What the hell's going on with Andre Drummond's minutes? I guess some front court minutes open up now, but those would probably go to Larry Nance. Do you like him? Those are kind of the questions all summarized there from this game.
Yeah. I probably, based on what I expect to be an ownership differential between the two, would prefer Kendrick Nunn to Goran Dragic. I like both those guys quite a bit. I have Dragic projected a little higher, but I expect him to be higher owned. Take a peek at that. We have him as the 3rd highest owned player on the slate. And that's just fine. I project him to score a little more, but relative to their prices, I don't think that necessarily holds. And I think a little too much weight has been placed on the limited minutes we've been seeing out of Kendrick Nunn recently. No Hero, and more importantly, more Jimmy Butler. I do think in my current rotation, someone asked me to talk about minutes more. I haven't kicked back to 34 minutes tonight. Now, there's still blowout possibilities, though admittedly, not having Jimmy Butler will rein that in a little bit. But against a Kevin Loveless Cleveland team, there's the third matchup between these two teams this year. The Heat beat them once and spanked them once, unsurprisingly. And obviously, Dwayne Wade celebration day number 2 at home.
Nance is starting, by the way. Sorry. Nance is starting.
Yes, I expected that. I assume Nance and Drummond are starting for the front court. Chetty and Sexland.
They wouldn't have a full starting lineup. It just says Nance is starting.
Yeah, and I think that's very much something you can do there. Again, the absence of Alfonso McKinney helps him a little bit with minutes. Now Michael Porter Jr. will take some of that time, which is not an unreasonable stand. Obviously, the ejection and his play in the last game were not what they're looking to see out of him at this stage in his career. But that's still a guy who very much has a ceiling on the team that's going to have some minutes open there on the wing. But you will get a few extra minutes for Chetty Osman. You'll get Kevin Porter will pick up a few extra minutes. But Larry Nance, I think, is 5'7", 5'9", or something are the prices. That still retains a very significant upside. I will say your percentage of amazing Larry Nance games where he's playing power forward are much less than when he's playing center, and I don't expect him to play any center in this game. So I'm fine with it as a tournament option. I would expect he would be 10-12% owned. If he's less than that, that's about the number I would shoot for. So not a priority for me, but pretty convincingly the most appealing player on this team for me would probably be him. Probably then Porter, then Garland at what's a really cheap price, but I'm not.
Yeah, Garland's 10 or 11 on Yahoo. I like him there.
Yeah,
it's kind of forgotten value with all of the Dallas guys and the Chicago guys.
It's just sort of an upside thing against Miami. What are you really going to get out of Darius Garland? You may pick up that 35 in that spot. There is some extra usage to go around here. I would have some Sexton. I would have some Garland, but in one lineup, probably none of them. It's tough. DraftKings, there's just a couple guys who are priced a little. I mean, a couple $1,000 more than say Kleber. FanDuel power forward. There's all kinds of centers playing power forward. Gafford is a power forward. Jared Allen now starting. Someone I obviously have an affinity for is playing power forward. So a little tough to work into lineups due to construction reasons. But yeah,
where do you put Bam? I mean, he laid down a monster on Thursday. I don't see that one coming again, but he's he has 3 triple-doubles this season. He's doubled in like 32 of 55 games. He's averaging 5 assists. He's one of 7 players averaging a steal and a block per game. Tremendous all-around game. Yeah, and he won the skills challenge.
Skills challenge. I love when the big men win the skills challenge. That's obviously always very exciting. But I'm trying to remember his price exactly. He's high 7s on DraftKings. Does that sound right?
I believe it might even be 8.
I will look.
He is 86.
Yeah, that's okay. See, that's where it gets a little difficult. But obviously there is a ceiling there. Not the best rebounding spot, but he should get his very real time. Wouldn't surprise me to see Olynyk slide into the starting matchup. Each of the 2 games that Jimmy Butler missed recently, Kelly Olynyk picked up the starts. I think he played 12 and 15 minutes in those games. I'll double check both those facts real quick before I state them. Well, after I state them to confirm they're correct, but so I would not be super excited based on that. Let's find those 2 games. We're beginning this month, right? Okay, yeah. The 7th, he was out against the Kings. Kelly Olynyk started and played 18 and a half minutes. The 9th, he was out again against Portland. Kelly Olynyk started and played 13 minutes. If we get news that he's starting, and only if we get news that he's starting, I'm fine with some exposure with the obvious caveat that there's a real chance he does not play a ton of minutes. And obviously there's time now to go to Jay Crowder and Iguodala, and like there's just a lot of other places that can go. I'd much rather obviously get to Crowder, but there's a pricing disparity there. I don't think I want to marry Derrick Jones Jr. I like Duncan Robinson, especially $4,000 at shooting guard or whatever on FanDuel. Again, Nunn, Dragic, Adebayo, Robinson are the 4 guys I feel reasonably safe in and expect to see some extra usage here due to the real possibility of a blowout and how good the Dallas value is and how proportionately worse, mostly just due to the pace the matchup is for Miami. I am to some degree lower on these guys, but that is obviously the next spot to pick up a big chunk of usage. I don't think we can really count on Derek Jones getting the minutes necessary. I don't know if Iguodala is going to play 15 or 25 minutes, but he's frankly looked pretty crappy. So those are the four guys who, again, I would make a priority. Again, I imagine my first lineup has something like 3 Mavericks, 2 Heat players, and then some monsters.
All right, kind of wrapping up this one. We have a $10 super chat from Cedric Phillips.
Really? Big C, how you doing?
He wasn't supposed to be here today. Cedric, missed you, buddy. He would like to know, and look, this is the true professional that Cedric is. DeAndre Ayton and Jared Allen or Cody Zeller and Bam on FanDuel, they're the same price at $14,100 for the pair. Thanks, Eddie.
First one, not close.
There you go. That's how you ask a question, people.
Great question. Quick answer. Yeah, first one, not close for me.
All right, let's go on to our next one here. We got 2 left. We got
10 minutes. Let's do questions or high points or something.
Philly, Milwaukee. I'm not really excited about anybody on Philly. Loving Giannis tonight. Go from there.
My order of guys I'd be interested in. I'm not very interested in anyone on Philly. My order would probably be something like, most sites it's going to be Embiid, Josh Richardson, Ben Simmons. Probably the order. I'm going to go with those 3 guys. They haven't set a starting lineup yet. I do not think it is impossible that Al Horford starts. I would have significant interest if that was the case. I don't think that's what happens, but I do think it's possible enough that I'd be interested in doing that. But for me, it would be Embiid, Richardson, Simmons. Again, not priorities, but all 3 of those ahead of the not priorities for the Cavs, if that helps contextualize.
All right. Yeah. Giannis is the only guy I'm looking at from this game.
I'm fine. George Hill at $3,000 got 20 minutes in their comeback game. I think that's an intriguing pivot from some of the other $3,000 options. I ranked him. Kind of wrecks his return, and this team being largely healthy moves a lot of the Connaughton, DiVincenzo, all those guys kind of got screwed for me, and it is not a particularly brilliant matchup. So say todo para me.
Houston, Utah. Last 2 times we have seen this game, there was no Clint Capella. There was a PJ Tucker, by the way, who is now center eligible on FanDuel.
Good for him.
Gobert played about 35 minutes in each game, had a grand total of, I think, 11 field goal attempts. So while he was out on the court, did not really do a whole lot. Usually a more normal game for him is closer to 10 to 12. But I'm not excited by Gobert in this one. Harden and Westbrook, I would prefer Young and Giannis to them amongst our guys at the top shelf here. Donovan Mitchell's an okay guy. I really like Robert Covington. We'll talk about him particularly when we get to the SuperDraft segment of the show. Reminder, we are on for another half hour after the 7 o'clock lock times covering SuperDraft. What do you want to do with our late night hammer?
Not a ton. I think you're looking at it right. Mike Conley is probably my favorite player on the Jazz, obviously coming off a really significant rest. Looked good against Houston when they just recently played. Looked good really these last 4 or 5 games, and I don't think 8 or 10 days of rest is going to hurt him at a price in the low 5s. I haven't projected north of 30 tonight, and I think there's a ceiling beyond that. He'd been really good leading into the break. I have no reason to expect that to stop here. So Conley, pretty clearly my favorite player on the Jazz. Then I have a tight second clumping. Rudy Gobert is turning out to be fairly popular. I think that's fine. I do think it is fairly unlikely he gets played off the floor. Obviously, we have seen a number of times that they have gotten teams to go small. I do think that is possible, though Quinn Snyder has technically more frequently been a stick to my guns kind of guy. So I think it is more likely that we get, the full Monty out of Gobert. So I like him a lot, but it is a little bit overestimated exactly how well he would dominate in this format, especially given his particular skill set and the way this team runs. So sort of nuance set there. I would have Gobert, Bogdanovich, and Donovan Mitchell in a pretty tight second tier of guys I'd like to get one of. So I'd like to get Conley. If I could fit him in, probably isn't going to happen a lot because he's 5 something, which is a great price, but there are lots of guys I obviously like who are 3 and 4K. But Conley, my favorite point per dollar again versus ownership. I think he's going a little undersold. After that, I suppose I would have Donovan Mitchell and Gobert a tier ahead of Bogdanovich, but I do think that there's a chance that he splashes down a very good number of threes tonight. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
my
was
take on
Adam's
them. And
thought
then
as well, is that they're
for the
going to need.
Rockets, I would have Westbrook, then Harden, and then Covington, and then beyond that, I really don't want to go. Someone asked me about House. I expect him to get played more and more out of this lineup. So I really don't want Daniel.
Yeah, Green and Damari are with him now. Jeff Green.
Yeah, they have Damari Carroll and Jeff Green and Tabo in the wings if necessary, and all sorts of stuff going on there. So I think Daniel House loses pretty significant time in this spot.
Glenn Robinson III remaining in the starting lineup.
Interesting.
Played 14 minutes in the last game. That was an overtime game on Thursday, so tread lightly. That does not move the needle really at all for anything there.
Yeah, I did not rank him. So again, that's the biggest kick in the nuts I can give someone is I did not rank him. So go as you will.
So we'll hit a couple premium chat questions here, and guys, reminder, we're going to stay on till 7:30. I've just punted my lineups. I'm going with the 7:30 and later games now. So having fun with that. Cam Reddish or Joe Harris on FanDuel?
Yeah, Joe Harris, another guy who I would take Cam Reddish because I think an upside is a little bit more likely. I have no issue with Joe Harris, but I do think his he does not get a lot of usage, not a lot of extra stuff. Minus Kyrie Irving, and with these guys, you can look at just the one game we've had since the break with the Nets, where you got there's 19 shots out of Dinwiddie, 29 shots out of Karis LeVert. Again, that's going to balance a little more going forward to being closer to even, but it's I don't expect it to be any greater of a Joe Harris game. So I'm less on Joe Harris than other people, so I would go with Cam Reddish, what I think is better ownership and a real shot at significantly more time too. I don't think it's likely, but I do think there's a real chance that you pick up a fairly stupid amount of time from him.
Just seeing. Did you hit on Tristan Thompson at all?
Why would I?
Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I guess he could get the fourth quarter again and play behind. Is he like $3,000? Like, did he come down to 4,000 somewhere? I did not.
I don't think he's that cheap.
I don't think he got quite that cheap. Like, he's 5,000 on FanDuel because I happen to be currently looking at it.
He's 49 on DK.
Yeah. Yeah. I if you wanted to have a share or two of Tristan Thompson, you obviously could. It's not a good matchup. I'd be shocked if he saw 30 minutes. So it's really hard for me to rank him against those other guys. But he's shown a couple of ceiling games this year. I don't think it's crazy to have it at 2 or 3% of your lineups, but really not somewhere I'm trying to go.
How do you feel about Embiid for don't Embiid my status?
I'm fine with it. Like I think Embiid most likely, he was my favorite 76er. So not a fan, not one lineup I'm like, God, I got to get Embiid in here. But if I'm playing a 76er, he would be my favorite to play. So by all means.
Let's see. Conley or Brunson? I'd still lean Brunson, but I think that's
going to depend on other things, whether or not you have Trey, your exposure to that game. I have them projected pretty similarly. FanDuel, Brunson, by the way, $3,900.
Yeah, he's 5K on DK. Not quite as tasty there.
Feel free to enjoy that one. Yeah. But yeah, that's very close for me, and is going to be more of a salt to taste thing. But like
that's
both those guys,
line, Eddie.
Sorry,
salt to taste. That's my line.
Is that? I wonder if I picked it up from it.
You did.
Thing I'm obviously familiar with, but I'm wondering if I amortized it specifically.
Well, I borrow. They make our socks roll up and down because that's what you say. So
yeah, just when I'm not feeling old enough, I can lean back on the fact that I popularized "make your socks roll up and down." Like that is a real dad ass thing I've got going there.
Yes, it is the bee's knees. How do you feel about Shetty tonight? I feel about the same way as I do every night. Yeah.
Yep, that's about my feeling. I do not object to having some small amount of Chetty. I do not think it should be or could be any sort of reasonable priority in this situation. So,
how are you feeling about Kelly Olynyk? I don't have him in my player pool.
I think that's a
bit of
an
extreme.
That's an extreme, but it's again a fairly average night for me. I would be site dependent on DK. I'd prefer him on FanDuel. I'd prefer Rubio, for example, from that same game because of the pricing disparities. But I'm again fairly ambivalent on Kelly Olynyk. I do not have a strong take there, I'm afraid.
Is Jeff Green viable tonight at 3,200 on DK? What, 10 to 12 minutes maybe? We don't know what he's going to get.
He played 20 in the last game, and that had something to do with some blowout. I ranked him, meaning I would have some shares. So can you play him? Yes, I think he is a reasonable player to deploy in this situation. That's about as much of an endorsement as I can give him. But yes, my man is playable. I'm sorry, I'm in the full news tank searching.
Yep.
I'm really wondering if I'm going to get, Boban Marjanovic will start at center. I don't think that is likely. I think it is more likely than not that he plays, I'll go with 14 to 16 minutes off the bench. But I don't have it yet.
For DraftKings, could you rank the 4 top players being Harden, Trae Young, Embiid, and Westbrook?
Without looking at their ownership, I would have them be Trae, Westbrook, Harden, Embiid. Very close on Harden and Embiid, though. Embiid most likely to pull up a monster here of the guys on that team. It is not difficult for me to envision that game going that way.
All right, we are 1 minute away from lock. I am playing the late swap, so there we go. Got my hockey lineups in. I just play the tiers when we do the shows, and then I play the later slates because the Osmo ownership projections, the line stacking boom bust tool, and the overall player projections are K magnifique.
Yeah, like a multi-sport threat. All you guys just doing real damage.
Devontae Graham, happy birthday, 25 today.
I didn't know that. I did not know that. I missed the narrative. That changes everything.
Who's older, Graham or Rozier?
Rozier, I believe.
Look it up, and we are at lock. Rozier is, yes, not quite a year older. His birthday.
I think Rozier is. Yeah, I was about to say. That's a good. I would play that game. Who's older? I'll play any cool basketball trivia game. So let's do a little daddy like for like 5 minutes. Get that out of the way quick.
Then we're going to talk SuperDraft. So guys, we're going to be on until 7:30 here. So
what's the sexy contest on SuperDraft tonight?
The SuperDraft sexy contest is, I don't do it as well. Laffy has a little saying for it.
Does he?
While I'm pulling that up, do you have any thoughts on Iguodala for a premium question?
Unexcited. Has not looked great. Obviously we're fairly excited about the matchup, but unlike several of the other value, like just when you look at some of the other guys on the Heat even, or look at the Mavs, you have a real chance of these guys playing 34 minutes, 36 minutes. The Bulls, 34 minutes, 36 minutes. Iguodala, I have at 21. I don't know how confident I feel in that. So for that reason, the combination of low minutes and not brilliant production, and just a team that has a number of other guys who take advantage, Sans Butler, he would be low on my list. I believe I did rank him, meaning I would have some nominal amount of exposure and a few shares in it. But
SuperDraft has a $22,500 contest, $12 to get in, $4,500 to first. It is half full right now. Now, we do know that it will get close to filling, but there has been room in these contests the last few nights, so you'll want to check that out. Let me get
all right, it'll be a real quick daddy. Like we have one game, right? We just have one game, so this will be cool.
One game. Who, as I'm pulling it up here, is the most popular play on DraftKings?
Entry point and prize pool?
$15, $350,000.
So jealous of you guys. Terry Rozier. That one's easy.
100,000 to first. Hey, where have I seen
really?
that before?
Yeah. Definitely got to give 28% of the prizes to first place. That's a healthy ecosystem.
You are correct. What percentage?
I keep forgetting to look at our ownership projections before.
Which is the best, because people think you do this. We used to do this before we had ownership projections. So when we did this at FanVice, the Jaywalker special, as I like to call it.
Yeah, no, this used to be my jam. 15.
Not bad. 14.
Thumbs up. Now I have no damn idea. It should be Jared Allen. It won't be. I can't remember how much Dinwiddie cost. How much did Dinwiddie cost?
I don't remember. I think he was like low 8. Was he 82 or 79, something like that?
Yeah, something like that, because LeVert was 7. That's going to be up there. DeAndre with 37 minutes. I wonder how many people slobber themselves into making that.
Who is owned more, DeAndre Jordan or Jared Allen?
DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan 7.79, Jared Allen 7.65.
Hey, good job, people. You almost got there. And that's I mean, it's a really good spot for DeAndre Jordan. If I get time, I'll look up some advanced stats, but it's roughly the best matchup in the NBA for both of them 3 times already this year. So you have all kinds of history and common sense and math, and like it all should point to the same place. So I got no issue with that. I'll be pretty surprised if one of those guys isn't very good to outstanding. Maybe not both. I'd set that rule, but so they're both what, 7% and change? Yeah, yes. I love that for Jared Allen.
Yep. Karis LeVert was number 2.
Like Maxi Kleber is $400 less and is going to be 6 times the ownership. And like I like Maxi Kleber a lot. We ran out of time. I have like 11 pages of notes and went through approximately 1.5. But I wanted to talk about the other non-Luka, non-Kristaps game, which was a week after the first one and 2 weeks ago today, I believe.
Oh, can you get closer to your mic? Or your...
Absolutely. Sorry, I was reclining because we were doing Daddy Like.
Right.
We'll end Daddy Like. It's one
we'll
game.
End it. Kyrie Irving in 2 lineups. You played yourself.
They did play themselves. That's a very good point. What was I going to say?
The other
non-Kristaps, non-Luka game was certainly not exciting, and obviously that is a function of pace when you're talking about playing the Hawks versus the Hornets. That's literally the top and the bottom of the league. But you had only Seth Curry be good, and Maxi Kleber was bad. He was 1 for, I think it was 5. And I had the box. I won't go back to it, but he was like 1 for 5 from the field, played 28 minutes, and had like 14 fantasy points. And what's a really good matchup? He spent a lot of time at center. Pretty good spot. So I'll be interested to see where the ownership comes in on Maxi. We had him in, I think, 33.7 when I looked before. I think it will be higher than that just because he just had the best game of his career and is now playing without those guys against them. Like, I'm going to be pretty surprised if he is held. And he's forward eligible, unlike all these other value centers. So, but I'm waiting for Mavs starting lineup. Yeah, is a pretty critical piece of news we should cut away for when we get it. But,
absolutely. I'm loading a few things. I'm getting some ownership.
Probably Kleber, the appropriate degree of ownership is about 40%. Maybe a little higher.
Curry is starting. Seth Curry.
So they went to Curry. Okay. So I assume they will start Kleber at the 5 then, although that's not.
They are starting Brunson, Curry, Hardaway, Finney-Smith, and Maximilian Kleber.
Okay, so they did that. They moved him down to the 5. Okay. As expected, that was probably the most likely thing. Yeah. So a lot of people will flock to Curry. I don't dislike that. The minutes are pretty solid now. I just have a feeling this entire team will be underowned, we will see. But, as far as Kleber goes, like 40% is the right number. If he's 62, that number is grotesquely too high. If he's, starting at center is helpful for him as well. That's a really nice spot. And don't forget about Dwayne Dedmon. Dwayne Dedmon is a very nice complementary piece if he should fit into your lineups.
Yeah, Adam had some nice things to say about Dedmon tonight.
Yeah, he was in serious foul trouble the last game. He only played 20 or 20 whatever minutes. We have 5 fouls in that time, I think. Like, they want to start him and play him some 30 minutes at this point. They've shipped Alex Len out of town. They're missing Hunter, which is really relevant because he, plays down at the 4 sometimes. So it's a little more time for everyone. So I like the Hawks more than I probably let on a little bit. I mean, obviously I like Trey, but, Reddish, Porter, all those guys look pretty nice in that spot. They're just generally worse point per dollar options than their counterpart on the Mavs, excepting Trey because he doesn't have one.
All right. Just a reminder, the future of daily fantasy sports is here. It's SuperDraft, superdraft.io. We have their exclusive game mode is the multiplier. So say goodbye to those pesky salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. 3 guards, 3 forwards, and a center. They do have late swap. They do have CSV upload. And boy, do they have scoring. 3 points for blocks and steals. You get to double-double and triple-double bonus, -1 for turnovers, and then everything else is more or less the same. But then we have the multiplier. So if you have your eye on, say, Devin Booker today, I believe he's 1.35. I think his counterpart, Zach Attack, is 1.25. Bam Adebayo is 1.25. That is the multiplier. Don't think of it as 1.25. That sounds so small. Think of it as 25%. 25% is added to their fantasy total. That is huge because players like Westbrook and Harden and Giannis do not get a multiplier. Their multiplier is 1. 1 times whatever is whatever. There's no changing.
Well, it's not to whatever. I'm gonna be a math douche. It's really more like 18% or whatever. So if you have someone at 1.1 versus 1.3, that's not really 20%. At the moment, you understand what I'm saying? It's
Yes.
Because it's an additional 20% on the top of 110%, so it ends up being closer to 2/11ths or what have you, which is 18.18%, I think. So there's some funny math in there, but it is important when you're looking at these guys to look at the relative difference between their multipliers, not their relative difference versus 100%, because 1.2.0 is not 50% better than 1.5. It's 33% better than 1.5 and should be treated that way.
All right, so guys, I am looking at on SuperDraft right now. I like Booker, Levine, Bam, Donovan Mitchell, 1.5 multiplier there. So those are the guys standing.
That's really nice at 1.5. You'd have to get close to the. Again, I think 60 per spot is a good point to look at, and I think I had Mitchell for somewhere just a touch over 40 fantasy points in my projection, so that would get him there. I'm looking at a couple of the other guys. Bam at 1.25 would get very close for me. Jalen Brunson at 1.85 would get a hair over for me. I had him.
Yeah. So does Brunson slide in over one of those more premier name, bigger name shooting guards?
Probably for what I would expect to be a significant ownership discount. I mean, I like Zach LaVine in this spot, and 1.3 is nice. I think I had him projected for about 48. So it's 14.4 more would be 62.4. It's hard for me to look away from that. Donovan Mitchell at 1.5 would be almost exactly the same. So those guys would price out really similar to me. I'm just going through this in my head. You have Giannis at a flat 1.
Giannis is at 1, but Jeff Collins. Hey, El Jefe, how you doing? You have John Collins.
Shout out for
at a 1.35. El Jefe and I did shows. Did you ever do shows with him way back in the day?
I did. I actually founded a show with him, which was then taken over by some people for creative differences. But the first, I believe, titled Game Theory show in the industry was me and Jeff and I think JM to win. I think we're the 3 people on that show, and we got pretty deep into it. I want to start doing more processy, mathy, teach a man to fish type shows here when we get time to do that. But yes, I've done shows with Jeff. Jeff's really, really smart guy. One of rare guys who really knows his sports and really knows his DFS, and unsurprisingly has been successful, because that's really all there is to know.
Yeah. Would you go with John Collins at 1.35 or Bob Covington at 1.5?
I'd probably go with John Collins there. Covington's been really good, and he was the guy coming out of that massive 4-team trade and the trade deadline in general. I thought he was the number 1 player whose fantasy stock would increase with those trades. So I'm not surprised to see him doing better in that Houston system, but this is a pretty poor matchup for him. So I'll check my projections. I think I had John Collins for also almost exactly 40 fantasy points.
And center is where it gets really interesting. It's very
thin. You get one
today.
center. Yeah. Ooh.
So we have Embiid at 1.15. We have Drummond at 1.25. I'm going to say no to that. I'm just worried about the minutes. We have DeAndre Ayton at 1.25, back-to-back, but he did have a week, the All-Star break to recover from his sprained ankle.
Yeah, I would take Ayton among those. Pretty convincing. I'm curious. I know Osmo does projections for this, so
we're going to look at those next. I like to look at it at it clean and then come in.
Okay, I will wait for you to look at that then.
With those, so let me put that lineup in there. So, and you guys can deviate off this one. This is
Bridges starting again at the 4, which I thought was most likely for the Suns. So not Sarge starting or anything like that. So McCall starting again, as you were just mentioned.
All right, where are we? So I've got. Oh, I probably should make my lineups now that I'm thinking about it for the other site that I registered a boatload of content for. Let's go with SuperDraft here. So we have Zach at number 1 at 64. Ooh, Maximilian Kleber 1.75.
So we had okay.
Feels like I should probably. So let's go revisit John Collins at 1.35, Adebayo at 1.25, Covington at 1.5, or Kleber at 1.75.
I would have Collins or Kleber for me. Let me look at the numbers I put up, but it's definitely gonna be Collins or Kleber for me. Which does Alex have on top?
He has Kleber.
I have Kleber and then Collins on that list. Where does he have the others after Kleber and Collins? Is that also what he has?
He
might end up with.
See, I disagree with Boss Man. Now, he's worth millions from DFS. He has Rudy Gobert number 3, Donovan Mitchell 4, Andre Drummond 5.
I cannot get behind the Andre Drummond take.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson.
I don't like, unless you know something I don't. Drummond is 1.25 multiplier. Is that right?
Yes.
Drummond multiplier. So I need him to get 50. What's Ayton's multiplier?
1.25.
Yeah, I have Ayton projected 9 fantasy points higher than Drummond, and apparently he has Drummond projected raw higher. Got to find Alex. I want to place a bet with him, but he could get there. I think Andre Drummond outscores DeAndre Ayton 1 time out of 4 or 3 or something. But he needs to play way more minutes than we've seen, and Drummond is the one off the court in the blowout, and I don't expect that game to remain as close. I strongly disagree with Drummond over Ayton at the same multiplier.
All right, I have made that lineup. I'm going to do another one here, just because, damn it, these are fun. And
Gobert is really interesting. I think there is a broad range of outcomes there.
Real quick, there's 1,000 entries that are in here that are not yet in here. You can only put in 65. There's a decent chance this will go off about 10% empty, is my guess. So for those of you playing along at home, you have 15 minutes to do this. They do have late swap. They do have CSV upload. And if you use the promo code AWESOMO when you make a deposit, your first deposit, if it's $100, they will give you 20 in super cash. So there you go.
Yeah, I am not as sold on the Gobert experience against them going small, but I've seen the 2 previous meetings in which they played this year. One was obviously that really weird Eric Gordon went to the moon, no Westbrook, no Harden, no Capella game. I'm just not as high on. I don't disagree nearly as much as I do with Drummond, but I think Gobert does have a number of potential outcomes.
Dwayne Dedmon at 1.85.
I think that's fine in tournaments. From a raw projection, I can't get behind it. Similar to the reason with Drummond. If you tell me I'm getting 30-something minutes, then they're going to rank really, really well in their respective matchups. I just
Tucker at 1.8.
Who at 1.8?
Tucker as a center?
Nope. No chance. Like literally, I need 35 normal out of him.
Yeah.
In a game where, by the way, he may struggle to pull down a rebound.
So how about it then? Is Embiid kind of after Ayton then for you?
It's again, I do not have a firm grasp on ownership yet, and that obviously colors all these decisions. From a raw point standpoint, I imagine I have Kleber, who you indicated as a center.
Yes. No, power forward. Sorry. Power forward.
Okay. Well, then that is relevant. I would have Embiid over Drummond. I would probably rather play Embiid than Gobert, just because I feel like the floor is a little safer and the ceiling is similar. But Gobert has looked incredible this year. The price hasn't reacted nearly as much as it should have. He very rarely gets played off the floor again. Quinn Snyder does not tend to do that.
Yeah, and we've seen him with 35 minutes in this matchup the last 2 times without Capella.
Yeah.
We've also seen him not take any shots. That's the problem.
I was going to say, I don't think he had 40 fantasy points in either of those games. And by ranking him as highly as we need to have him for, I think, 45 or 50 or something to get it right. He's 1.2 something also.
Gobert is 1.3.
1.3. So I need him to have like 48 real probably to be good enough. I will hold on. My recollection is that is not how this has gone, and he has not been terribly engaged on the offensive end, and that there's plenty of rebounding opportunities there, and he gets his standard 15, 18 rebounds. But Okay, where is it? 2 games against the Rockets this year, one in January, one in February. As you mentioned, 37 minutes and 37 minutes in those 2 games, 36 and 37 DraftKings points. Neither of those games had Clint Capella. Neither of those games had Clint Capella. Those were both PJ Tucker center games. I'm almost certain.
They
I know
were.
the second
I did
one
go
was.
look that up.
Sorry,
I did look it up. They were PJ center. PJ.
right? They're both
center.
PJ center
Yep.
games, which, like he does a decent job. PJ. There was a Twitter thing the other day where someone posted, "What's the most underrated player in the NBA?" I put up a picture of PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker's great. I love.
It's like Troy Brown playing cornerback for the Patriots. Remember, wide receiver? They were really thin about 10 years ago, and he had to play. He was their cornerback.
I don't think there's anything like that because
no, but I'm saying your skill set, you're
is,
out there. Holy shit!
PJ Tucker is an excellent player on both ends of the court. He makes his corner threes when he has to. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and he's an absolutely brilliant defender. And he doesn't take the shots he doesn't do on a team that has at least 3 players much better suited to do so. He does exactly what he needs to do, which is space the floor. He's incredibly good and incredibly smart. And he's the DFS. Like, I have dumped all over that guy this year. There have been multiple PJ Tucker chalk days that crapped all over him, and that very possibly was right every time. But as far as like an actual basketball player, because so many people in our Twitter community is the DFS community, understandably hate on the dude, but he is great, and he will do an amazing job at stopping a guy 7 inches taller than him from getting comfortable around the basket. Like, he will get some putbacks where he'll just be over him. He will get some, but he fronts him, doesn't let him get the ball super down low and aggravates him. When he gets the ball, he just leans on him. Yeah, there are guys I couldn't score on when I played at the gym who were 5'7" because
starting lineup for the Heat: Nunn, Jones Jr., Robinson, Adebayo, and Olynyk. So Dragic staying off the bench.
That's expected. I would have been shocked if Dragic started.
You pulled your camera feed out, by the way.
I pulled my camera feed out.
That's
congratulations.
Right. We can still hear you. We just can't see you.
Can you see me again?
Nope. It's okay though.
Really?
Yeah, we only have 10. Oh wait, you're coming back, I think. Oh, he's gone. So we'll have to see.
Signal. Look at that.
That's weird. That's really weird. Can you still play Berea is one of the questions that's popped in here.
You can take a high risk play at playing.
Oh, you're back.
At playing JJ Berea. I did. I tapped my computer with my foot and somehow dislodged just that one wire. Absent news, yes, you can play JJ Berea because they're really shorthanded, but with Curry starting, it's fairly desperation to me. I think, yeah, even with everything going on, and it's worth pointing out that what's his name, Antonius Cleveland and Josh Reeves are both down in the G League right now. So they're guys who could have picked up minutes of relevance in a situation where they are really short bodies. So that, I would say it's more likely Boban plays than Berea plays, if that contextualizes my comments. I would give something like 2-1 for on Boban and 2-1 against on Berea. I think it is likely they don't feel the need to deploy him in this situation, but yeah, he did not play last night, right? They played Orlando last night.
Berea has played twice since these two teams last met. And last night
that was 3 weeks ago. So there was an all-star break in the middle. There's probably, I'm going to guess, 7 games intervening.
Yeah, good. I think he's played something like 7 of the last 11
right.
games.
Now they're
he's played 2 of the last 11 games, sorry.
2 of the last 11. Sure. So, like, there are... Right. And one of them was the game before that, obviously. One of them was the last day of January because he was super popular on the
Correct.
first.
He's played 2. That's a better way of saying it. He's played 2 since January 31st.
Right. So, yeah. Like, I really don't think I would find the need to. He is not unplayable by any reasonable standard.
I just realized why they were making fun of the ice. But we had to use all the ice for our margaritas. So I was wondering why this Pepsi tastes really good. It's because I used the ice from our margarita glasses that had the freshly squeezed lime in it. So I'm getting a nice little lime and Pepsi thing going on here.
So let's talk about some more SuperDraft.
Oh, I thought we wanted to talk about things that made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Well,
that is our hallmark, Eddie. So back over here to SuperDraft. I am now in this contest 2 times. Let's see. Let me ask you this one time. What master do you serve?
I serve no master.
What am I supposed to say, Jesus?
You can say.
Oh, come on! I'm
want.
quoting Guardians of the Galaxy. You should be happy. It's Doctor Strange. It's you. That was there.
Doctor Strange was not in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, he was.
No.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Nope.
Where they meet Thor?
Endgame? That's what we're going for here?
I don't know which one it is. I've only seen parts of it.
Okay.
In any event, 800 spots left on SuperDraft.
SuperDraft. Number 1.
So, I am refreshing our projections to see if they have changed for SuperDraft. Nope, they have not. Are you feeling Larry Nance at all with the 1.7 multiplier? Yeah, it was Infinity War. Sorry. It was like when Spider-Man was there and Iron Man and...
Yeah, they're in 4, like Guardians of the Galaxy are in 4 films, so it's okay. But
I knew. My wife's like, we need to watch all of these. I'm like, oh, I'd be interested.
I think Nance will start and play. I think I have 30 or 31 minutes of power forward. I think he is a fine GPP play at that point. The matchup is not terribly good, and it is really worth pointing out that he will almost certainly not play any center.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to get 48 minutes out of Tristan Thompson and Drummond, probably, unless the game blows out. And then I think Zizic is available again. Not sure on that one, but so I am fine should you have some shares of Larry Nance Jr. It is not a priority for me.
I guess a late question. Did the Curry news starting change anything for your Dallas Maverick assessments? Other than play them all, basically.
It wouldn't change my projection that much. It does make Curry a better play on the face of things. He is going to take a lot of Delon Wright's ownership, which was probably too high. Curry is, I think, he's $5,000 on DK. The price on FanDuel, which is largely irrelevant because that early slate has started, was whatever. But that whole team on FanDuel was $3,800 for Kleber, $39 for Brunson. $4K for Dorian Finney-Smith, $56 for Tim Hardaway. Was there, like, the entire team was massively underpriced. But it would raise my projection for Curry from something like 25 minutes to something like 29 minutes. It would decrease my projection a little bit commensurately for Boban because I was taking into account some chance that he started. I didn't think that was likely. I still think, again, I think they do put him in off the bench based on who they have available, but they certainly don't have to. But they got to run 48 minutes of center, and if it's not Maxi Kleber, you got to tell me who the other minutes are going to. So,
how do you feel about Crowder? Again, that question keeps popping up.
I'm much better than I do about Iguodala. I think the price is appealing. They started Olynyk again, which was as expected. I would rather run Crowder than Olynyk, given that situation. And also Derrick Jones Jr. picking up that start is somewhat relevant. That would, improve him from being entirely expurgated from my lineups. He had been, downtrending a little bit. And I was certainly concerned. If you looked at that last game, their one game since the break, he played, 12 minutes, give or take a few or something. That probably kicks back up reasonably significant here, where I'd have him at like 24, but there's a ceiling beyond that. If you look at the 2 games, Butler has missed in the last month. He played 26 and 29, I think, were the numbers in those 2 games, and that sort of ceiling is there. So at his ownership, I'd have some appeal swapping to that. I don't think it's impossible to play Olynyk at whatever 3,400 he costs, but I would prefer Crowder to either of those guys. I would have Crowder behind Duncan Robinson, behind Kendrick Nunn. Like, Nunn is the guy I want at 4,500. People are not going to go there. People are going to go with Dragic. And I'm giving myself a little bit of credit as the Dragic whisperer this year. There are teams in which I'm a bigger fan of Dragic getting there, but my appeal for Nunn is not terribly dissimilar to my appeal for Jared Allen, in that he's the guy who is getting the start. I think it's likely that he establishes himself a little bit more offensively. Having watched those Butler games, he called his own number a fair amount in those games. And he wasn't terribly efficient. I will go back to those box scores. But I think that there is a chance that he gets there instead of Dragic. I want to have one of those guys in my lineup. One of them should be exceptional in this spot, and the time should be significant. I don't hate both. Where are those 2 games? Okay. Again, we were looking at these before. The first game on the 7th, Kendrick Nunn played 34 minutes. He shot 6 for 19 from the field, had 16, 6, and 3. Okay. And again, that was in a somewhat tougher matchup against the Kings. The other game against the Trailblazers, which was an excellent matchup 2 days after that. And again, these games were 2 weeks ago, 7th and 9th of this month. Kendrick Nunn started, played only 27 minutes in that game, shot 4 for 18, had 9 points, 4 assists, and no other stats. Dragic came off the bench in that game, had 31 minutes in that game, had 27, 7, and 4. That's a very real possibility here. But at the ownership disparity, again, if Nunn gets out there and plays well, I think he gets more time. And going back to that first game, you had 34 minutes and Nunn, 28 minutes of Dragic. So at their prices and at their ownership, I would rather have Nunn in one lineup. I still like Goran Dragic quite a bit. But I do think this is a position where Nunn can establish himself and more guarantee his playing time. And that's a real thing that happens in Miami where they stick with the hot hand a little bit. So, but Nunn, Adebayo, Robinson, Dragic, my top 4, where I really want to make sure I have some exposure. And then tier 2 would be Jones, Olynyk. Probably makes up that second tier mostly.
All right, SuperDraft locks in 30 seconds. They are going to get about to 1850 is my guess. They're going to probably go up about 300 short here. 14 seconds, which will be interesting because I can see people are jumping in and putting in 65 lineups. So I'm guessing they are doing a little late swap, little CSV upload, etc., which is something that is available to one locked. 1781 out of 2175.
Jared Allen played 8 minutes in the first quarter, 2 points, 2 blocks, 1 assist, 3 rebounds. Made his only shot. Joe Harris shot once and missed. Dinwiddie getting there over LeVert. Yeah, the Nets are. My Nets team would have done well. I'd have been. Yeah.
All right, and then reminder, because SuperDraft will be going off tomorrow. I don't know what time they're going to lock tomorrow. They don't have. Oh, they are locking at 6 tomorrow, so that is going to be their main slate. We'll do our show at 5.
Okay.
Because it looks like everybody should be doing a 6 o'clock main slate to get the 6 games rather than the 4 games going off at 7 or later.
Garrett Temple good so far. I felt good about ranking Garrett Temple. I like Garrett Temple.
I put him in as a Yahoo discount dandy. So if you guys are checking it out, you get today Luka Doncic was the featured player, so it doesn't always work out for us. But you do get the free DFS building blocks article that I do cover 3 good SuperDraft plays. I do 3 or 4 Yahoo discount dandies, and then of course FanDuel, DraftKings overall general plays as well. That's in front of the paywall, so you guys can check that out. But definitely look at the SuperDraft. I've had some nice moments there. I had the Bam Adebayo night from Thursday, which was awesome. He had 100 SuperDraft points, Eddie.
Yeah, he had a pretty good I'm guessing he had what, a 1.5?
I think it was like 1.4, maybe 1.35, 1.4, because he had about 70 DK points, if I remember correctly. So that was like Trey had a whole bunch, and there was one other person that had a whole bunch that night.
Can we take a look at ownership for the DraftKings main thing?
Sure.
Can you get it again?
Yes, let's do that.
I don't have access to that, but I'm really curious where the Mavs end up.
Hey, for those 650, we love you that you're still here. Can you hit that like button? I forgot to ask.
Yeah, like us. Before. I like you.
And I like you, Eddie. It's fun doing shows.
I meant them.
Oh. This is awkward.
They make me work with you.
All right, let me get over here to a live contest. Let's go back. Oops, I'm on NHL. I do not want NHL. I'm playing the 10 o'clock slate because there are 3 games. Yeah.
Nice.
NASCAR is tomorrow. We have some fine NASCAR content. You get another 2 days there of. Is it not showing? You get another 2 days there of, or 2 games tomorrow for the XFL. I will say Sal Vetri and Chris Spags have been excellent with their analysis. Chris puts out a free article that, by the way, I think is second to none out there. And I look at some of the other sites' premium content just to do some quality checks for us here.
Yeah.
He puts out some really impressive stuff. So definitely Keep an eye
Sal
on
or Chris? Which are we referring to?
Chris does that article.
Yeah.
Chris and Sal do a show that will be 2:00 on Fridays going forward for the XFL.
We have an incredibly deep team here. There's if I am not here at some point, I will not be missed. Let me tell you, there is incredible bench strength.
Who is the most popular play?
So what games did we have here? Were there
Dallas
7:30s
and Atlanta? No, there's
there
only one
game?
7:30. Dallas and Atlanta is the only one. There's two 8:00 games. So they go off every half hour. But
Maxi Kleber.
What percent? And by the way, my cap was not set high enough.
I'll say 50. I was pretty sure all day people were going to go absolutely gaga over him. There's a lot of great value, and even 50 would probably be a little too high. You're giving me a look like it's higher than that.
71.
Yeah.
I think I set mine at 60 or 65, and I thought I was being aggressive.
That's a great spot. I looked at Alex's projections on SuperDraft a minute ago, and he had him projected for what I think must have been like 36 real or something if he was expecting him to hit 60 whatever on SuperDraft. And that's not crazy. I think I had him at 32.5, and he's 3,800. I mean, he's transparently a great play. 71% is too much. I love you, but it's just too much. I don't know what you think the odds of him. There is a chance he's not in the top highest scoring 5 players on his team who cost 4,500 or less. Like, it's 71% is a mathematical absurdity. If you played this slate a million times, you want under 71%. Absolutely. No question whatsoever. Like, there's just too much good value, including on his own team where there's some immediate correlation. So,
all right.
Pretty sure it was going to be higher than we expected. I think I got colored by looking at our ownerships. You have too much respect for people. I assume they're right, but I thought it was going to be a massive number. And yeah, he just came off the best game of his career and now has the whole team is out and he's playing against the Hawks. So feels good. But we're about to get into these other guys. And for every single one of them, you can, who's second? I'm going to guess it's going to be Curry or Dorian Finney-Smith. I'll go with Curry.
Karnak, who do you think the next DFS player is?
I'll go with Seth Curry.
No, who do you think the next DFS player
is? Okay, very good. Okay, so it's Dorian Finney-Smith. Dorian Finney-Smith is 25% owned.
28. Very good.
28% owned. Okay, Dorian Finney-Smith will not be outscored by Maxi Kleber. Now, they're not the same price. So there's some translation here. But there's some guys who are very close to the same price. What's the ownership on DeLon Wright?
25.5.
Right, and that's fine. We talked about this earlier today. DeLon Wright has a real downside and can disappear in these matchups and was not brilliant the last time they did this against the Hawks. And it's a great spot for Maxi Kleber. That being said, Maxi Kleber will not outscore DeLon Wright 75% of the time in this spot. Probably 65. Might even be like 70. It's not, the ratios are just wrong. What's the ownership on, I'm trying to remember if there's anyone else like in his range. They're not. They're all a little bit.
No, they're all cheaper.
Or less. What's the ownership on Boban? I'm guessing like 2 or 3%. Like that's
4.
That's gonna be
3.9. I have him in one lineup of my 100.
Yeah, that's about the right way to take it. There's a lot of risk there, but you'll know by the end of the first quarter.
Here we go. Greg SJ1, I like you. He says Karnak. These kids have no idea who that is. Zero chance they do. Carson retired before the bulk of our audience was born. So.
When did he retired? Like
93, I think. Was it? I thought it was 93. I was in college, so
93. Okay, it might have been later. I know it was in that realm of time. What's the ownership on Jalen Brunson? Like it's weird because these guys aren't.
Brunson is 19.
Price is Kleber, but like
Hardaway was 20.
Dorian Finney-Smith, I have projected for literally 1/2 of a fantasy point less than Maxi Kleber. Now he's $700 more, so this changes a little bit, but he will be a better deal than Maxi Kleber more frequently than 1 out of 4 times. Or 1 out of 3.5. It's 71 to 28, and they perfectly add up to about 100.
Let's see. Last question, and this is a good one. Can you touch on the Houston-Utah from a showdown perspective? I would say don't play Gobert. I would probably roll with Conley and Covington.
Let me look at it. Captain. I'll assume they mean DraftKings.
They do.
I will.
That's not fair to say that they do. I assume DraftKings.
Well, I think Showdown is their sort of specific brand
Correct.
title for it, so I'm gonna assume he's like reading it off his screen. Dude, I'm in the lobby.
Wait, is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist active?
Yes, he played 5 minutes for the Mavericks in their one game since the break.
Willie Cauley-Stein, 0.02.
But no, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is active. He's one of the many ways they don't play Boban is you get Michael Kidd-Gilchrist center minutes.
Yeah.
Not impossible. Okay, what am I looking for? Houston, Utah, Showdown.
Yes,
$50,000
$50,000
tournament.
DK. Yeah, it is DK.
You're
the Ron Burgundy of DK analysis. They want you to know.
Hey, everybody. Come see how good I look.
That's one of my favorite screen names, Chalky McChalkenstein, who also said, make sure to dunk your milk in bread. He was under some influence when he was watching Laffy eat the one chip challenge.
I saw a brief clip of it. Certainly milk and bread, decent ideas in that context.
Yes. Usually you would dunk the bread in milk.
I'm starting at the bottom. So Rivers and McLemore and Green are all the cheapest players I would consider playing. I can't get behind Bradley Carroll, Moutier, Nyang, Ed Davis, Cephalosha, Caboclo. All those feel a little too cute for me. We did get, I think, 5 minutes out of Caboclo in the blowout run against whomever, and he, might get a larger role. 5 minutes, yeah. So that might not be completely insane at $1,000, but that's blowout stuff only. I want to check real quick and check like the G League.
All right, while you're looking at that,
because I think Chris Clemens is down, and that's relevant to look at. So give me just a minute.
All right, some SuperDraft ownership for those that are rail birding.
Oh, thanks.
You got 27% Jalen Brunson. We have John Collins at 37. You have Maxi Kleber at 36. And that's Kleber with a 1.75 multiplier. You've got
who's the most owned? Start at top for me.
Oh, I can only look at my lineups, or I'm just.
Oh, you're only poking around. Okay, go ahead. Give me some numbers again. I'm curious.
Brunson 28, Trae Young 15, Collins 37, Kleber 36, and Trae Young's got the 1 multiplier, obviously. Hardaway Jr. is 25.
What's his multiplier? Like 1.55, 1.6?
Sorry, I should be calling those out. So Brunson's 185, Collins is 135, Kleber's 175. I lost the Hardaway team, but I'm sure I'll come across him in a moment. Yeah, Hardaway's 165.
Okay, Clemens is down in the G League to answer that question. Go ahead and keep on with SuperDraft.
Oh, I think Hartenstein went back down too.
Yeah, he's definitely down. Yeah. I knew he was down. Clemens is down as well. So that affects, who's going to be out here in the event of a blowout run on this team. So, yeah, I will go back to my statement that the cheapest players I would be looking to implement would be Rivers, McLemore, Green. I don't have actually, I would prefer Rivers, especially if the money does something for you, by a hair in that matchup. I would try to expose myself a little more to Conley than the field. I think he gets under-owned and he's got the mark of Kane on him. And I'd have real interest in Eric Gordon if he plays and starts. I think we are still questionable on that.
We are. We no update yet. So
him being in really would move me away from McLemore and Rivers. Like he would affect both their minutes negatively, not so much Jeff Green. So probably I play Rivers, then McLemore, then Green if Gordon is out. Otherwise, I would probably play Green in that value spot. I try to get to some more Conley. I think he's just under-owned and underpriced. The ratios on the top guys are about where I would like them at those prices. I would have Westbrook, then Gobert, then Harden, not by a significant margin. I mean, Westbrook has just simply been taking more and more shots, and their new offense is going to more frequently relegate Harden to more of a guy who's on the outside swinging the ball. They are just clearing out the middle again and again and again, and they just clear it out, and you have to have
Gordon's coming off the bench, but he is available, they say.
Who is?
Gordon.
He is available?
Available, but off the bench. This came out 10 minutes ago. It wasn't automatically refreshing here for me. So
yeah, it didn't bing for me. Jalen Brunson with a hard fall on the first play of the game. Looks like he hurt his right hand immediately, runs to locker room. Delon Wright checks in.
Oh, where did end up on Brunson 54%.
Well, that's a shame. Now Delon Wright will get there, and people will be like, "You said that you didn't like Delon Wright." That's not what I said. I said of how much I liked them all relative to the field, that differential was least on him. That I did say.
Oh, that hurts. All right. Well, we're gonna get on out of here. We've got for those diehards that were still here with us 45 minutes after lock. Thank you. Hit that like button on the way.
I have good news. Jalen Brunson made the first basket of the game before going out with an injury after 30 seconds.
This is.
I just thought that might make you feel better.
No, I have only 19% Delon Wright, and
Yeah, literally, Jalen Brunson makes driving layup, fouled by Dwayne Dedman, who we liked, foul in the first 30 seconds, misses the free throw. Jalen Brunson takes a foul. Delon Wright enters the game for Jalen Brunson. 11 minutes and 48 seconds on the clock. So when I said 38 seconds, I overshot that by 250%. 12 seconds is what you get. 12. I'm guessing now, based on the fact that he got it fouling somebody, and the fact that he ran to the locker room and someone said it looked like a finger thing, very possibly dislocated tape and back out there. Maybe it's his non-shooting hand. Like, you have outs still is the only way out. By the way, Tim Hardaway Jr. just made a second bucket.
So, one last one here on
you have outs.
SuperDraft. Dorian Finney-Smith was only 5% at 1.7. Kleber was, what did I say, like 30%.
1.85, but whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I obviously would prefer 5% guy. Yeah. I need to get a better feel of the ownership there.
Right. To complete that thought, though, this is one of the ones where, because there's not a lot of content yet for SuperDraft, it sort of transfers other players into this, especially with the multiplier that sort of attempts to level the playing field. But a lot of times people just go for the name and then that's it, and forget about these kind of not horrible plays by any stretch, because again, they're carrying a big multiplier as well. But when you get somebody that's fifth is owned as another guy, and they're
most owned player on the slate, highest scoring player on the slate right now, any guesses?
No.
Garrett Temple, 18 and a half fantasy points.
Hey, Yahoo! There you go. I didn't play Yahoo tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he got a lot of time, and he was like 34 or something. I ranked him aggressively. I may have given him like double Bs or something, which obviously isn't an overwhelming endorsement. But for Garrett Temple, double Bs for Garrett Temple. I put it out there for him. I'm like, that's an endorsement for me right there. 3,500 on DK. I was pretty excited to see how that could work out. So, number 1, Garrett Temple. Number 2, Karis LeVert. Number 3, Miles Bridges. Number 4, little guy you may have heard of, Jared Allen.
Wait, what? So as we finish this up, Infinity War, was there one after Infinity War?
Endgame.
Okay.
Yeah, Guardians of Galaxy are in 1, 2, Infinity War, and Endgame. So
Moses Guthrie says I'm recklessly quoting Infinity War. Well, there's like wars and Endgame. They're similar titles.
There's a lot. They came out with their recent. They have 3 or 4 more series now coming out on Disney Plus, where there's Loki's own show. Vision and Scarlet Witch have their own show.
Oh, I didn't know her name was Scarlet Witch. Is she aligned with Vision, or did they have similar powers?
They both have godly undefined powers. Okay. All right, now look, there's comic book Vision, which is a long story I'm not going to get into. Movie Vision has, Infinity Stone stuck in his forehead and is super duper powerful that way. Scarlet Witch is magician, but she's not called a mutant. See, Scarlet Witch is Magneto's daughter, but that's never said in the Marvel
so
films.
We're crossing over.
Well, that's all right. So they ended up in a gray area because they appeared in both Fantastic Four and X-Men comics and in some other things. So the license for the character Scarlet Witch got diverted between Marvel and Sony, sort of in that whole Spider-Man thingamajig. But she's Magneto's daughter, but they can't refer to that because they can't refer to Magneto. They can't even use the word mutant in a Marvel film. So that's why when she first appeared in Avengers 2 Age of Infinity, they said, I think, enhanced on the field. And they were like, enhanced humans, because they can't say the word mutant, but that is Magneto's daughter. Her brother is Quicksilver. They are Magneto's children.
That is,
So
I had no idea, because I know that Days of Future Past, and I know a few of the X-Men things.
yes,
I like
Yeah,
the Wolverine character. I think everybody likes the Wolverine character.
everyone likes Wolverine. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen I was a very good holiday Wolverine one time. I don't know if you've seen the picture. There is an excellent.
No, but I bet you can work it out pretty well.
Yeah, I grew in the things
Yeah.
and the one picture I have remaining from it. I'll see if I can find it for you. I'll tweet it at you or something. With my friend who is the world's biggest Michigan Wolverines fan. So it's a picture of me like this and like wearing a t-shirt.
Oh, all right. Well, we're going to get on out of here. We will be back tomorrow. By the way, don't forget, for the 400 that are still watching, we do have the DFS strategy show Sunday morning. That will be Sal Vetri along with Josh Engelman. I believe they are honoring that 9:30 time slot. Eddie and I will be on at 5 doing live before lock, and hopefully the slate doesn't go quite as sideways as it did tonight. But hey, that's what makes it interesting. So definitely check us out if you have not yet signed up. Use promo code live before lock, all one word, get 50% off any 1 week package. And again, sponsor SuperDraft, promo code Osmo there gets you $20 added to your first deposit if it is $100 or more.
I'm just waiting to see Garrett Allen check back in. That's all I want out of my life. They just called the timeout with about 6 minutes left, and if that goes through, then they'll have gotten 14 minutes in the first half to DeAndre Jordan's 10, which is exciting.
Very nice. With that, gamers, you can follow Eddie on Twitter at FastEddieFair. I'm at EMACDFS, and of course, it is Osmo_COM.